Hey there, and welcome back to Hearts Wine from Hearts Distractions, the podcast where we explore the messy, beautiful, and complex world of relationships. I'm your host, Alicia Minor Gaines, and today we're diving into one of the most important and often overlooked topics that hits close to home for anyone in a relationship: communication, specifically the difference between talking and truly listening, or as I like to call it, are you talking or just waiting to speak? Now I know you're thinking, communication again, Alicia? But seriously, hear me out. You think, or you might think, you're communicating well. But what if I told you that you're not actually listening at all, especially when you're communicating with your partner? Instead, you're just waiting for your turn to speak. Be honest. How many times have you been in a conversation where you weren't really listening? Instead, you were just mentally rehearsing your comeback. Or you've been in a conversation where it feels like neither person is truly hearing each other. Yeah, I've been there too. Trust me, plenty of times. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. So, yes, this episode is for you. Whether you're newly dating, in a long term relationship, engaged, or married, communication, real, meaningful communication, is the foundation of everything. If you don't believe me, take a moment to reflect on your own conversations, engagements, conflict moments, silent moments with your partner. But here's the thing: all forms of communication is hard work, especially active listening. Some can handle the work, and we know there are some that either can't, aren't able, and or capable, refuse to put in the work, or just don't know how because maybe it was never taught or modeled correctly for them. But guess what? I want y'all to get a little closer and listen to this, because the good news is learning how to listen, really listen, can be a total game changer for your relationship. Trust me, I know. We're talking about fewer fights, stronger connections, and yes, even better intimacy. Who wouldn't want that? I'm going to sip to that. Again, I say, who wouldn't want that kind of peace in their life? Sign me up like yesterday. Seriously, who is feeling me on this one? So, in this episode, I'll break it all down: why communication matters, what active listening really means, and how to stop talking at your partner and start talking with your partner. Grab your wine or your favorite drink to relax, get comfy, and let's get ready to get into it. I'm your relationship expert with over 20 years of professional and personal experience. Now, I get to be your host in addition to being a wife, a mother, a marriage and family therapist who, yes, owns her own private practice. If you didn't know, I'm someone who's passionate about helping people navigate the ups and downs of love and relationships, understand relationships on all levels, while also recognizing and calling out the things that most don't acknowledge, including family, friendships, and how mental health plays out in relationships. I even help people identify their generational patterns that play out in how they think, behave, and maneuver in their relationships. I'm also a relationship coach and entrepreneur, and the author of Distractions of the Heart, a poetry book all about the messy, beautiful emotions and relationships we experience and carry in our hearts. And when I'm not having deep conversations or helping others, you might catch me mixing up a drink or two. I'm a bit of a mixologist at heart and enjoy coming up with new flavored cocktails. Who wouldn't want those, right? So grab your glass of wine, get comfortable, and let's talk about all the heart's distractions that cause your heart to whine in your new favorite relationship podcast. Let's start with the big question. Why is communication so important in relationships? It's not just about talking. In fact, if all you're doing is speaking your truth and waiting for the other person to finish so you can speak yours, you're missing a key piece. You're like a hamster on a wheel, just running in circles, but literally going nowhere. Communication is about feeling heard and understood. It's about connecting. It's about feeling valued. When that doesn't happen, things can spiral pretty quickly. Now, I want you to think about a time when you were in a conversation and you felt like the person you were talking to just wasn't listening. Frustrating, right? Maybe they were interrupting, or maybe they were simply waiting for their turn to talk. In those moments, it can feel like you're talking at each other rather than to each other. I'm going to say it again. Maybe it felt like you were talking at each other rather than to each other. It's like having a conversation with a brick wall, or worse, a brick wall that interrupts you. And here's the thing, when communication goes wrong, it doesn't just create frustration and resentment, it can lead to emotional distance. Ooh, yes, I said that. What is emotional distance, you ask? Well, I'm going to tell you. You might need your wine glass for this point. Emotional distance in a relationship refers to a sense of disconnection or lack of intimacy between partners. It happens when one or both individuals feel unheard, misunderstood, or emotionally unsupported. This gap can stem from unresolved conflicts, poor communication, stress, or even unmet emotional needs. Over time, emotional distance can weaken the bond, making it harder for couples to feel close and connected to one another. Recognizing and addressing emotional distance is crucial to fostering a stronger, healthier relationship. I think I may have found another podcast topic, y'all. I might have to pencil that one in somewhere. But to continue my point on communication going wrong, we must not forget those dreaded "I'm fine" texts that are never fine, or the "I'm okay," "I'm all right," or "I'm good" comments that always have a deeper meaning, especially for us women who use these words as a signal for, how about you ask me a real question if you truly want to know how I'm feeling, to get a real conversation going. With attitude, I might add, right? And a little bit of flavor for some of us sisters. While holding that thought in your mind with a straight face, right? I'm just saying. We've all been there. I know I do it. I can't control my faces. I don't know about y'all. So, when you feel like your partner isn't truly listening to you, you start to build walls. And let me tell you, those walls can get really tall. You hold things in while shutting down and withdrawing from the conversation. And that's when the resentment, frustration, and emotional whine, you know, those tears that come from unresolved issues, start to bubble up. I'll share a quick story. My partner and I once had this argument where we were both talking, but neither of us was actually listening. It was like two people shouting different songs over each other. No one's tuning in, and it's just noise. Sound familiar? Communication isn't just about what you say, It's about how you make the other person feel. If they don't feel heard or understood by you, the conversation will quickly go off track and go left. And trust me, it's like driving a car with no brakes. You're definitely heading for a crash that you will not survive. Now, here's the takeaway: poor communication isn't just frustrating, it's exhausting. But the good news is, you don't have to worry. We're going to learn how to fix that. This is where active listening is key. And I'm handing the keys over to y'all today. So let's talk about what active listening really means. You've probably heard the term before, but do you know what it really entails? It's more than just hearing your partner's words. Active listening means fully concentrating on what your partner is saying, understanding their emotions, responding appropriately, and remembering what they said. How many of y'all can do that? But let's be honest here. How often do we actually do that? It's easy to zone out, thinking, hmm, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Or worse, think ahead to what we're going to say next. Some of us do that. I think I do that sometimes. It's hard to be fully present sometimes, especially when life's distractions are constantly pulling at us. Here's a little secret though: it's not just about hearing words. Active listening requires you to listen to the emotions behind those words, the body language, and the underlying message. If you can't do that, then you're only hearing half of the conversation, if you're lucky. You're basically like a person who only reads the title of a book and pretends they know the story. But don't you actually have to read the story to know what the book is actually about, especially the title of the book? Think about it. Let me give you an example. Let's say your partner's telling you about a tough day at work. They're not just saying, I had a rough day. They're communicating frustration, stress, maybe even some vulnerability. If you're truly listening, you pick up on those emotions. You respond with empathy, putting yourself in your partner's shoes. You don't just say, that sucks, babe. You say, I can tell that was really tough. What happened? How can I help? What support can I offer you? Let me ask you this. Have you ever had someone repeat exactly what you said but completely missed the feeling behind it? Like they're technically listening, but you still feel misunderstood. That's passive listening, folks. It's like hearing your partner say, I'm stressed, and you reply with, that sucks, instead of asking, what's stressing you out? Or how can I help? Active listening requires curiosity and compassion. It's not just about getting the facts, it's about understanding the feelings behind the facts. I'm a drink to that. And no, wow, that's wild, doesn't count as active listening either. Trust me, my ex tried that once and it did not go well. And let's be real, it's not always easy. Sometimes we're too distracted or too caught up in our own emotions to really listen. So you got to take the time. Now, let's talk about what gets in the way and why we fail at active listening in the first place. There are a ton of barriers that can get in the way. The biggest culprit: distractions. Phones, work, stress, even Netflix. If you're scrolling Instagram or halfway through a binge watch while your partner's talking, you're not listening. You're multitasking. And that really doesn't exist, people. I just want y'all to know that, because your focus always lands in one place versus the other. All of these things can pull your attention away from your partner. And when you're distracted, you're not truly listening. It reminds me of a time I was trying to have a serious conversation while watching a cooking show. I was hearing my partner's words, but you're mostly just thinking, I so want that for dinner tomorrow. Another huge barrier is assumptions. You think you know what your partner's going to say, so you tune them out. Or worse, you judge their feelings before they've even finished talking. That's a big problem. Why? Because it means you're not actually hearing them. You're not hearing them out. You're just assuming what they'll say and planning your response. Like when you're waiting in line for coffee and you assume your barista is going to ask you the same question you always get. Spoiler alert, they might surprise you, and that's not listening. And then let's talk about vulnerability. A lot of people don't want to really listen because they're afraid of what they might hear. If your partner is opening up about something difficult, it can make you uncomfortable. And then there are emotional triggers. Maybe your partner says something that reminds you of maybe an old fight or a past hurt, and suddenly you're defensive instead of open, not communicating your feelings. But when we avoid truly hearing them, we're building emotional walls, and that's dangerous for any relationship. And let's not forget about that ever present issue, the difference between listening to respond versus listening to understand. We're all guilty of that at some point, right? You're just waiting for your turn to speak rather than actively trying to understand what your partner is saying. And when that happens, the conversation turns into a competition, not a collaboration. I'm going to pause on that one for y'all and take a sip. Trust me, there's no who can talk the most award out here. Here's the controversial part. I think social media and pop culture have totally warped our expectations for communication. Everything online looks so scripted and perfect, but real relationships, they're messy, awkward, and full of misunderstandings. And that's okay. Perfect communication does not exist, but active listening does. That's real and it's powerful if you heard that message. Okay, so how do we get better at this? How do we actually practice active listening in our relationships? First of all, give your partner your full attention with no distractions. That means putting the phone down, turning off the TV, and making eye contact. Oh, making eye contact. Yes, eye contact, not eye contact with your phone. Okay, I just, went on a rant right there. When you do this, you're actually telling them you matter and I'm here for you. And trust me, your partner will notice. They're like a dog watching you eat pizza. They know when you're truly there. Next up, no interrupting. I know it's hard. We all have things we want to say, but if you let your partner finish their thought first, even if you think you know what they're going to say, it shows that you value what they're saying. I think some of you need to ask clarifying questions also. Don't just nod and say, uh huh. Ask, can you tell me more about that? What did you mean by that? Can you tell me more? Or, how did that make you feel? It shows you're genuinely interested in understanding them and how you care to have a new level of understanding. And here's a big one: use nonverbal cues, nodding, leaning in a little bit, maintaining eye contact. It lets your partner know that you're engaged in the conversation. It doesn't have to be all words. And hey, if you're out of words, at least give them the look. The one that says, I hear you and I care. Another tip: Reflect what they're saying. You don't have to paraphrase everything, but saying something like, so, what I'm hearing is that you're feeling frustrated because of X, Y, and Z, or so you're feeling overwhelmed because work's been so demanding lately. This isn't just repeating, it's connecting. This confirms that you've truly understood their point. It shows that you understand their feelings and what they're going through. Finally, create a safe space. No judgment, no defensiveness, just openness and love. If your partner knows that they can be open and vulnerable with you, it will be much easier for both of you to listen and connect. It's all about trust, and sometimes it's about remembering that you're not in a interrogation room. Nobody wants to be there. Let's be real. Active listening doesn't always go according to plan. There will be moments where you get triggered, misunderstandings happen, or you just aren't feeling it. I like to call those relapse moments, and that's okay. Maybe one partner is trying, but the other isn't. Or emotions run so high that even the best intentions get lost. When that happens, here's what to do: pause, apologize, start again. And whatever you do, don't weaponize what you've heard, meaning don't use what your partner said against them. Okay. If your partner opens up and you use their words against them later, trust is gone. The key is to not give up. When things go wrong, take a step back. If the conversation starts to go off track, apologize. Say, I wasn't really listening. Let's start over. It's like hitting the reset button on your relationship's Wi Fi. Sometimes it's needed. It's not about being perfect, it's about trying, putting in the work, putting in the effort. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. And it's about being willing to reset when things go wrong. And trust me, it's so worth it. I've been in situations where I've had to stop a conversation and say, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you just now. Let me try again. And honestly, it works. It's about showing that you care enough to get it right. So, yes, it's okay to hit pause, but just don't make it a permanent pause, right? Meaning you withdraw completely from the conversation. Let's end on a good note. Let's end on a hopeful note. Misunderstandings, when handled with care, can actually bring couples closer. A few of my couples I've worked with have shared similar stories about having a huge fight over finances, parenting, household responsibilities, and even who ate the last of the ice cream in the freezer. It turned out the fights weren't about money, the kids, responsibilities, or even food. It was about feeling insecure and unheard. Once they really listened to each other, everything changed. That's the magic of active listening. It turns conflict into opportunities for growth. And who doesn't want growth in their relationship? That's why y'all here listening, right? Okay. Let's take a sip to that. So, what have we learned today? Communication, but most importantly, active listening, is one of the most powerful tools in any relationship. I don't care what level you're on, any relationship. It builds trust, intimacy, and understanding. Active listening isn't easy, but it's a game changer. It requires focus, effort, and empathy. It's the foundation of stronger, healthier, and more connected relationships. The next time you're in a conversation with your partner, ask yourself, am I really listening, or am I just waiting for my turn to speak? Trust me, when you make the shift from talking to listening, it can change everything. Trust me. Again, I'm going to say it again. When you make the shift from talking to listening, It can change everything. And if you're willing to work on it, you'll notice a deeper connection with your partner. But here's the challenge. This week, practice active listening with your partner. Put away distractions, focus on their words, and see how it changes your connection. Trust me, fellas, studs, all of y'all who are listening who got women love that. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. Have you had struggles with communication in your relationship? What steps are you taking to improve that? Share your experiences with me. I'm all ears. Head over to our website, www.alishazdistractions.com, ALLISHAZ distractions with an S.com to share your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, which is, yes, on all major channels. And hey, you can catch us on our very own YouTube at Hearts Blind from Hearts Distractions. And follow us on social media too. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and now Facebook. Links in the description so you'll never miss an episode or update. Thanks for joining me today. And remember, communication isn't just about talking. It's about listening. And remember, the best relationships are built one conversation at a time. I'll catch you on the next episode where we'll talk about something just as juicy. So stay tuned. And as always, raise those wine glasses up and say what? Cheers.